he broke down and started sharing that it was not intentional. He never meant it. I wasn't even thinking about my eye injury. It was just a spontaneous thing. Just like I could have said, see his head, see his nose. But it was just for me, and that's another thing, triggers. So when you have trauma, you have what they call emotional triggers. Conditioned emotional responses. Now for him, anything that has to do with high is a trigger for me. So when he was saying, Roger, see his eyes out of anger, he was not saying it how do I put it now? To insult me, to refer to my injured eye. It could have been Rorie, but because I had history and
with
past and memory with the eye, so anything that has to do with eye,
projected to the eye becomes a trigger.
Become an emotional trigger for me. So one of the things you also see when people have been through trauma, as you asked earlier on, in marriage, is that when people are traumatized, you see that they have what they call emotional triggers. Funny enough, emotional triggers could be anything at all.
Wow.
For me, it was pencil. You remember that particular day that I ran out of the study when my children were probably fighting or dragging a biro or pencil, and when I was because it will give you emotional deregulation.
Sure.
You be expressing emotion in a dysregulated manner because it's like you are moving from 0 to 100 for a thing that should not even warranted such energy. So that's how you know that there's a presence of a trauma somewhere. So calm down. The children are just playing with the pencil because I have history with pencil, so it triggers me. Another thing I have seen my own experience at times, I'm combing my hair, I'm looking at the mirror, and looking at the mirror, seeing myself. It reminds me at times I wonder, I wish I was not in school. I didn't go to school that day. But thank God now I understand it better. My understanding, and I'm no longer a victim, I'm a survivor. And so we have emotional triggers. So emotional triggers will reveal the unhealed childhood wound. It will reveal unmet emotional needs and emotional expectation. It will reveal your core beliefs, and at the same time it will also reveal protective mechanism, because everything you're going to be doing to protect yourself, like that day I was trying to protect my children, I become hyper vigilant with anything that have to do with pencil, anything that have to do with aggression with another person, because I'm afraid that you could get injured in your eye. So that was how I became hyper vigilant with my children. I became overprotective. And so why I was doing that, because they didn't understand where I'm coming from.
Definitely.
I'm emotionally dysregulated. And when that happened, they may not understand it. At times, you're asking me to do some things. And now when we bring it to marriage, one of the things has impacted me.
I was going to ask that. How does it impact? How does it impact marriage? When we bring trauma into marriage, how does it impact the other person? And, what are the things that helps us to know that there's trauma somewhere in marriage? I'm talking about marriage now. So
when we talk about trauma and how it impacts or affect marriage, you see one thing about,
especially I'm talking about your spouse. How it impacts that person. And how the other person gets to identify that, this is trauma. There's trauma somewhere.
You see, when it comes to marriage, you are who you are. I tell people, when it comes to choosing who to marry, who you are is more important than what you have.
True.
So you want to marry the person for who they are. Now, because that is important, that's the core, that's the person you are getting married to. Now, when we talk about who you are a product of all your conditionings. As we talk about your nature, as genetic material, some traits that have been passed down to you from generation to generation, just as they pass the color of your eyeball, your height, your stature, your bone structure, even your physique. You inherited all these things. There are also traits that you inherited through the genetic inheritance. Then the other one is nurture. Under nurture is where we talk about environment, how you were raised, the things that impact on your conditioning, that inform your person, the parenting style, the religious environment you were exposed to, the kind of education you were privileged, the people, then the relationships that now brings about traumatic events, the situation, significant emotional event of life that happened to you along the line. So by the time the person you are getting married to has experienced significant emotional event of life, traumatic experiences that have conditioned them, they already have what they call conditioned emotional responses to some situations. They have emotional triggers, like what I was telling you. There were days and times that I remember while we were still working at the international hotel brand you were working with then. You wanted me to meet some of your friends, new people you were meeting, and I just don't want to come. Now you'll be wondering, what's this such a big deal to just meet people? I want you to meet people. There's somebody I just met that has become, because the kind of thing you were doing there, you are so good at what you do. You have beautiful relationship with your clientele, and some of them, and because of, we also have, there's this ministerial dimension to our lives. You've met pastors, you've met religious leaders that, I would like my husband. My husband is also, because I'm also a pastor actually, and he wanted me to meet them. You were meeting people, and people ask about your husband, ask you about your children. At times I just say, we are going, then suddenly you remember, I'll just change my mind. Even years after.
It can be very annoying.
You may not, even you didn't know. At some point, I also didn't know then. I just felt, I was just withdrawn. So one of the things you see when somebody is traumatized or they have emotional wounds that's yet to heal is that at times they dissociate.
They avoid.
They dissociate. They also have what they call avoidance. To some people, they have unfiltered anger. That's why I talk about emotional deregulation. They respond to things in a deregulated way emotionally. Some have emotional breakdown. So trauma does impact mental health. And that's where it becomes scary, because it impacts, once it affects your mental health, because you're a psychological being, you're emotional being, you're a spiritual being, you're a sexual being. And once the mental dimension, psychological being of a person is impacted, it impacts how they get along with people. It impacts how they relate. So for me, in my own experience, I was having what they call avoidance. I was avoiding relationship. I don't want people to meet this hospitality guru doing well in her office. People know her. She's a top shot in her office. Now we are meeting her husband. There's this thing in your mind that just tell you,
focus on my high.
You're going to focus on my high and things like that. That makes you feel, I don't want to mix with people. And when that,
good enough for this kind of relationship.
For that kind of relationship. But it took me time. Even though I knew that this is not right, but I couldn't help myself. And as of that time, as of years back now, I didn't understand it. But I just knew that I have this way of just shying away from trying to meet people, especially new people entirely that I've not met before, that I don't know. So I avoid relationship. And at times also, you want us to go out to places. You remember? I remember those days, you want us to visit places. I said, no, I'm not going. I've been wondering, is it because of money I'll pay? No, it's not the money, it's about paying. It's just about this core belief that trauma at cost. Trauma, and that's why people listening need to understand this. If you've been traumatized or you've had significant emotional event of life, to some people it was a rape event before you got married or even after you got married. Or probably you had a near-death life experience, somebody about to drown in water, or somebody... maybe infidelity, something that shook you to the very bone of your being, so to say. Maybe something traumatic, something emotionally disturbing. Don't just sweep them under the carpet. Don't just feel I'm fine, because it conditions you. It impacts you in your core, the way you see yourself.
So let me say something. Is it okay to say that if you start to respond in a negative way to things, you must pay attention to it?
Yes, we call it emotional triggers, conditioned emotional responses. You are going to be having what they call emotional deregulation. You are not going to manage things in an appropriate way emotionally. And at times some people just break down. To some people it also impacts even their sexual relationship. Because, for example, a lady or a man or anyone that has gone through sexual abuse or rape incidents in their relationship, when they get to that point in their sexual encounter, because that also will be as a trigger. Once there's a sexual mood set in place and the man, it's a trigger. And when that happens, the man will be wondering, why is my wife avoiding me? Why is she shutting down? And you see, your sexual organ is not your first sexual organ. Your major sexual organ is your mind. And trauma resides in your mind. So you see, it impacts the way you see things, the way you view things. And at the end of the day, it can impact your sexual life as couple. It can impact your ability to trust. It can bring about trust issues. Intimacy. It impacts communication and communication style. So some people, they just shut down. Once had a client that had a very traumatic experience. His mom was killed in his presence as a child, very young child, and that stayed with him for years. Now he got married, And when they're having altercation, he's having altercation with his wife, he just shut down. So avoidance, as I talked about, and I was wondering, I just want us to talk over issues. I want us to look at issues critically. Why are you shutting down on me? And by the time he came to session for therapy, I discovered that there's an unresolved childhood wound. And I now discovered it was because he experienced the death of his mom firsthand.
Wow.
And nobody dealt with that as a child.
Wow.
Now he's a grown-up adult, he's married. It's affecting the way he communicates. So instead of, anytime there's an heated argument,
instead of facing
issues, he just zone out.
Away.
He zone out and pulls away. So these are the ways this impact on marriage.
Okay, let me
people have unresolved trauma.
Okay, let me ask this. Because I know that in marriage, it's very possible that one person is aware, the other person is not aware.
Yeah.
Now, in a case where, and I think I experienced someone asking this question over the weekend. I think I want us to talk about it as well. In a case where you as the woman know that your husband responds from his trauma in different situations in the marriage and he's not aware, how do you help him to be aware, and how do you help him come out of it?
First and first, you must understand that every trauma can be healed, but it requires a safe space, requires a supportive environment. From our own experience, you know how we're able to pull through this. You had your own fair share of trauma, even though we're not talking about you today while growing up. But for me, I had a woman in you that was understanding. You brought a lot of empathy to the table. Now, then, at a point, eventually, because as we grew, I came to an awareness. So the first thing that helped me was that I came to what they call an awareness. I had self-awareness now. Okay, this is what really happening to me. Because it's also impacted on my ministerial life. In those days, a lot of marital relationship programs that we've had for many years, we couldn't document them because the camera became a trigger for me then too. Anytime we are trying to record and there's camera and I'm seeing myself on the screen, there's a way something just dies on the side of me. And we stop documenting many years of single and married relationship programs. We couldn't document. I didn't understand it then. I just got that time there's a camera and I just shut down. I struggled. And you were wondering, why are you not doing 1 minute video? Why are you not doing that? Because, but a time came that I came into an awareness. So it helps. We need to understand this, that if you must help your spouse that is going through trauma and is not aware, and you are aware, that helps. But after that awareness, you must now bring to the table what we call empathy. You must not bring bring understanding to the table. Then now find a way to communicate it. For example, encouraging counseling. And you're not saying you have a problem. You need to go see a counselor. You are traumatized. That will not help. Because one of the major issues that we have with mental health, especially in this part of the world, is stigmatization. People see mental health as a taboo. And so many men will say, look, there's nothing wrong with me. I've also experienced that in my therapy and counseling engagement with clients, where the man say, we are here not because I have any problem. Or my wife say we should come. I'm just here to fulfill our righteousness. No. So you need to find a way to present it to him, not that he has a problem, but you want to come with empathy, with understanding, with patience. And it takes a lot. Now, from my own experience, I discovered that in those days, there are a lot of things you wanted us to do. Even in a way, it also impacted on marriage and relationship. But because of my own internal dealing, my own word internally, as I said earlier, things are created twice. Your inner realities impact on your outward experiences and what you do and what you don't do. So because you didn't have that dimension of inner reality of what I have, those layers upon layers of those core beliefs that have lingered over the years, that it has taken years for me to break away from them. And that's why I'm glad that I can relate with people when they come for therapy and counseling, because
and you can even talk about it now.
I've been there. So I understand. I can feel it. I understand what they are saying because I've been there. So those layers, barrier upon barrier of those inner talk, inner core beliefs that are negative and are anti-progress that I have to deal with let's do this. I have a lot. It's like I have 20 gates to pass through. You had maybe 2 or 3. And you've gone past it. Then our temperament and personality also. I said it earlier. So all those things affect how people that are going through trauma receive
and respond.
When, especially when their spouse is saying, let's go for counseling or therapy. So you must come with an awareness, you must come with empathy, you must come with understanding and a lot of patience. And also say to people that you must also learn, because human being, we are spirit, soul, and body. You can also take it up in prayer to encourage that God will touch the heart of this person. The heart of the king is the hand of the Lord, like a flowing river. He dies to whichever he will. So you also want to take it up in the place of prayer, because even counseling and therapy does not look away from people's spiritual values.
Sure.
I get it. It does not look away from people's belief system.
Yes.
And one of the major things that enhances people's spiritual values and system is affect their values and belief system is their spirituality. So for me, one of the things that helped me before I came to the understanding of what I was dealing with was my spiritual life. There was still limitation because of my soul was injured, my soul was wounded. But my spiritual life was the thing that it was in it I was finding strength. But the limitation that I was not getting the necessary help, the specific help for my soul, was because I didn't have that information. And most of the time, I need to also let people know, when you are praying that God should help you, at times the way God answered the prayers, that He may bring the right person, the right professional. Because you are a spirit, soul, and body. Jesus Christ has become to both the wisdom and the power of God. You can't solve the wisdom problem with power. And you can't solve the power problem with wisdom. So one of the things that happened to me was that I was doing ministry. I was pastoring a church for over 10 years. And yet I was doing fine. But when I drop the mic and the anointing lifts, I get back to my cocoon, to my because the issue was in my soul. Even I was doing it spiritually, but the gap in my soul is also limiting my productivity spiritually. And that's why it's important for spiritual people, for people that are Christians or that believe in God. Because no matter what you do, I remember when he said the sower sowed the word. He said some yielded 60. No, let me even start from the different kind of heart. Talk about the seed fell among the thorns, the wayside, among the rock, and on the fertile ground. We all know the three other ones, the wayside, the rock, and the thorn. Definitely the seed won't survive there. But the one I was now surprised was the one that fell on the good ground was only yielding 30, 60, and 100-fold. Different manifestation. The same seed, the same word. And that's the things we also experience in churches, in spiritual gatherings, that people listen to the same pastor for years, people listen to the same leader or spiritual head or their pastor or their teacher for many years. It produces different results in people's life. At times it's due to the unresolved soulish issue people are having. So in those days, I was still doing the work of the ministry. I was doing fine, and I'm a spiritual person. But I was producing 30, whereas I had capacity to produce 60. More. I was producing 60, whereas I had capacity to produce 100. Because a gap in your soul is like a limitation to the flow of the spirit. It will hinder your manifestation, you taking advantage of the full course of what God has in stock for you. And that's why many people are not, the word of God is not profiting many people, because there's a gap in their soul. And until you now channel that word to that gap in your soul and address it and be intentional about it. Unfortunately, when it comes to the issue of the soul, you only cast it down, you don't cast it out. If you are talking about demonic issues, you cast them out. But when talking about soulish issue, for the weapon of our warfare are not carnal, they are mighty through God to the pulling down of stronghold, because that's what traumatic event of life, significant emotional event of life does. It eventually go to create a stronghold, and every soulish matter that you do not deal with or address can create a loophole, a gateway for demonic infiltration. And that is why it's important. And this have to do with a continuous casting down. Unlike if it's a demonic infiltration, you cast it out. But if it's a soul that is damaged, it's a continuous casting out, because those core beliefs, those negative beliefs that have been implanted due to those traumatic experiences, they've taken hold in the person. So it's a continuous, that's why be yet transformed by the renewal of your mind. So your transformation will only come to the level, to the degree of the renewal of your mind. And one of the elements of a renewed mind is a soul that has been damaged, a mind that has been damaged, that has now found healing, that have become self-aware and is now ready to do all it takes spiritually, mentally, psychologically, emotionally to find the necessary healing.
Wow. I mean, I'm so full. You know, while you were talking, I think this just dropped in my heart. And I think I want to ask, how long does it take to heal from a trauma?
Yeah, when we talk about healing about trauma, I tell people, most of the time, people say, time heals. But I beg to differ. Time does not heal anything. It's what you do with time that heals. Because for me, I had my own injury at 7, 8 years of age. And as of time I was responding, reacting, having emotional deregulation towards my children, I was already in my late 30s or so, yes, because they were already grown to an extent. I was in my late 30s then. And You can imagine if you
So I'm
remove
just
7,
thinking from 7
so over
to
20
30.
years. So because there was no
Wow.
deliberate, intentional process
In fact,
to bring
there
about
was
the
no
healing.
There
There was no awareness. Because if there was no awareness, you can't do anything about
True.
it. So time does not heal. It's what you do with time that heals. Now, when we talk about healing, I'll tell people, take your time. Because, people have also what we call relapse.
Yeah.
And that's why I said it's a thing of the mind.
Yeah.
It's a thing you cast down.
Yeah.
Are you getting me?
Yes.
But there's a level you get to that it has no more hold over you. And that's why it takes a renewing of your mind.
Yeah.
Like, for example, those negative core beliefs that have been established, you need to now change those beliefs. I'm good enough. You need to have what they call reframing. Because one of the trauma also does is that it brings about what they call cognitive distortion. So you want to tell yourself, no, I'm good enough. It happened truly.
Yes.
But it's just a part of my story. It's not the end of my story.
Yes.
It brings emotional triggers. Fine, my emotions are real. Even now, almost in my mid-40s, and at times, as I said, anything can be a trigger.
Yeah.
I'm combing my hair,
Yeah.
and I'm hearing the voice saying, look at your hair. And I just tell myself, oh boy, now lie you talk. There's a reason. Now I've found purpose in my pain.
Yeah.
And so it does not hold
not
me
a
back. And that's why I'm
victim.
talking about it. I'm not a victim
Yeah.
anymore. I'm a survivor.
Yeah.
And because of that, it has brought me to platform. I've been privileged to speak in places. I've been privileged to talk to people because it eventually led me to become a therapist.
Yeah.
I became a counselor, and now I'm supporting people.
And you're helping people.
Helping
come
other
out
people
of
to
their
come out
trauma.
of their trauma. So
Beautiful.
I found purpose in my pain.
Wow.
And so that's why I said, see, I don't believe there's a particular timeline for somebody to be healed.
Yeah.
The most important thing that you are aware and you are intentionally taking the right step towards healing. It may take time, it may take 1 year, it may take 2 years, whatever, no matter what it takes, allow yourself to feel what you feel, but don't stop there. Just keep going. Keep casting it down. Those thoughts, those negative thoughts. If you need to go for therapy, please come for therapy, come for counseling. And that's what we do at Love Boulevard International.
Beautiful. I think the last question I would have loved to ask is, what do we do? How do we come out of it? I think you've mentioned it from things you've said. And if I would pick very important things that you've, talked about in this podcast, you've spoken about the fact that marriage is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
When we all come into marriage, we come into marriage with one dysfunction or the other, with one
all our
trauma
baggage.
or the
Both,
other.
we come with the good, the bad, and the ugly of our lives from where we are coming from or from what we are coming from.
True. And now you've told us that it is important that we are aware, the self-awareness.
That's where healing starts with self-awareness.
And then it's also not okay to stop at being just aware.
Yeah.
I know that it's there, but you're not doing anything
You need to
about
do something about it.
So
Yeah.
when the self-awareness, the next step is that you take courage. You take a courage to deal with it, to solve it, to find solution. And to also, I think one major thing for me also here, because I've seen it with us, is communication. Is to let the other party in the relationship know that I'm going through this. This is what I'm experiencing. Because what you don't say, the other person can never understand.
Yeah.
They don't know where you're coming from. They don't know how the trauma has impacted you. So I think it's okay for spouses, for people in relationship, for people in marriages to speak to each other about what they're experiencing or what they're going through.
Yeah.
Because it would help the other party know how to help and how to support you.
Yeah, you see, it's important we can't rule out the place of communication, effective communication in marriage. And one of them that helped us was that we talk a lot.
Yeah.
We spoke about things, and it's okay to be vulnerable with your spouse.
True.
No, I remember the days we've had conversations that I broke down and I felt this is just it, But you were there. And also remember there are days that you had your own breakdown as well.
Yes.
So we need to start learning how to normalize vulnerability, especially for men.
Yes.
Men need to understand that there's nothing wrong in being vulnerable with your spouse.
Yes.
Unfortunately, many people have married someone that they could not be emotionally vulnerable to. And that's another major issue in marriage. Because an ideal marriage should provide psychological safety and emotional safety.
Yes.
You see, no matter where you are, and that's why counseling come to play and therapy come to play. Now, when you're dealing with trauma, you want to look at individual therapy and also couples therapy, how the individual person is dealing with trauma to understand the person, and the couple therapy, how it has impacted the other party, and a joint. So that's why at Love Boulevard International, we use what they call the 112 model, where we get to meet the couple individual sessions before coming to what we have called joint sessions. So it enables us to understand them as individuals and how it has impacted them. So we need to normalize that it's okay not to be okay, but it's not okay to remain not being okay. Very, very critical. So let's normalize therapy. Let's normalize counseling.
That sounds so good.
Yeah.
That sounds so good. Wow, I don't even know what else to ask you.
Well,
I think we've not exhausted, but I think we've had a beautiful conversation, and it's okay to wrap it up here. I'm sure on our next podcast episode, for marriage and relationship, there are so many things to talk about.
True.
There are so many things to deal with.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that I'd like us to do here is to debunk the lies that have become truth.
Okay.
Is to turn around the mindset that have the wrong mindset back to the right mindset. Because, right now, what we see with people in relationship and marriage is that the wrong things are becoming the right things, and the right things are becoming the wrong things. I mean, wrong things and things that are actually not supposed to be are being normalized in marriage. And I'm hopeful that we'll be able to get.
I will get there. Take it a day at a time. One podcast, one episode, and the other.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people out there doing beautiful job around this.
Yes.
I think we just need to add our own voice also to this whole conversation, marriage conversation, relationship conversations, so that we can have a more healthy and a more wholesome relationship.
Yeah.
Because whether we like it or not, this eventually, if you don't deal with these issues we're talking about, eventually impact the next generation.
True.
And at the end of the day, our society will be worse off. Because every society is a reflection of the major attribute of the of families in that society. So goes the family, so goes the society. And I'm so glad that we're able to have this conversation.
All right, thank you so much for joining us. I'm hoping that you will be with us on our next episode. Have a beautiful, beautiful time.